There are people walking among us who carry something ancient, something almost invisible but undeniably powerful. They don't wear robes or glow in the dark. They don't call themselves masters or saints. In fact, most of them have no idea who they truly are. But they're marked, not by light, but by shadow. A sacred, rare form of protection that shields them from forces the rest of the world doesn't even believe in. I'm talking about the ones who have been protected not just by angels or guides, but by shadow guardians. And this kind of protection only appears when the soul has been chosen for something immense. If you're still watching, it's because on some level, you already know you are one of them.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lessons.
The world talks a lot about light, love, positivity. But what it rarely talks about is the reality of spiritual warfare. The dark chosen ones are real, not demons from fairy tales, but incarnated forces of distortion. They're highly intelligent, often charismatic, and they operate not through violence, but through influence, energy, and fear. They feed on confusion, division, and self-doubt. And those who carry light, especially rare light, become targets. But here's the twist. Not all light is meant to shine openly. Some is meant to be hidden, cloaked, protected by shadow itself. That's where shadow protection begins. The first sign you have this rare protection is that you've always felt watched, but not in a paranoid way. It's subtle. It's like walking into a room and knowing something unseen just shifted. You might have thought it was anxiety, but what if it wasn't? What if your nervous system was reacting to energetic surveillance? The dark chosen ones are drawn to potential. But when they sense a soul that's guarded by shadow protection, they hesitate. They can't read you. You're invisible to their radar. You might have even watched other people fall into strange misfortunes or manipulations, and somehow you were spared. That's not luck. That's shielding. Shadow guardians don't shield you by standing in front of you. They wrap your essence in a cloaking field. They make you unreadable to lower forces. The second sign is that you've been through hell, but you never broke. You bent, you shattered, you fell to your knees, but something always pulled you back. Not just resilience. It felt like an invisible hand. Like you were allowed to suffer, but never allowed to be destroyed. That's shadow protection. These guardians don't stop the storm. They let it come. But they seal your core, your essence. So even when your life burns down, your soul remains untouched. And here's what's deeper. Sometimes the pain itself was part of the training. Because the ones with shadow protection are meant to walk in places others can't survive. You're not here to live a soft life. You're being prepared to face darkness not with fear, but with authority. The third sign is that you repel certain people without trying. You might have noticed this. You walk into a room and someone instantly dislikes you. No reason, no conflict, just tension. Or maybe you've had people try to provoke you out of nowhere. It's not about you personally, it's about your field. Your energy carries a frequency that disrupts hidden agendas. The dark chosen ones, or those under their influence, can feel it, even if they don't understand why. Your presence threatens their control. You don't need to say anything. Just being there reveals what's false. That's why you've had to walk alone so often. That's why you've been misunderstood. You weren't meant to blend in. You were meant to interfere with the program. And the fourth sign, this one is the most sacred. You've had moments rare, profound moments where you felt a presence standing behind you. Not frightening, not even comforting, just there, watching, holding. Maybe it happened in a dream, or during a breakdown, or even in total silence. You felt it. A being without form, older than time. It didn't speak. It didn't move, but it made you feel like nothing could harm you. That was not your imagination. That was one of your guardians. Shadow protection doesn't always show up as light. Sometimes it shows up as stillness, as the absence of fear, as a sudden knowing that you are not alone, even in the darkest room. And when you feel it, even once, you're changed forever. Because now you know something ancient walks with you. I want you to pause and ask yourself something deeply, quietly. Have you ever wondered why you're still here? After everything. Why, despite all the chaos, heartbreak, near-death moments, betrayals, you didn't vanish. You didn't lose your mind. You didn't succumb to bitterness. What if the reason is not just your strength, but your protection? You see, shadow protection isn't random. It's earned, or maybe remembered. It's given to those whose missions require them to walk through dark terrain not as victims, but as operatives of remembrance. You are not here to escape the world. You are here to anchor memory into it. And to do that, you had to be protected not just from outside forces, but from your own inner collapse. That's why you've been through so much. That's why you were sealed in shadow. We live in a world where everything is about being seen, being validated, being celebrated. But those with shadow protection are not meant to be seen by the masses. They are meant to move between realms, to operate behind the veil, to carry light into places where light is hunted, and still survive. That's you. You've been trained in silence, initiated through suffering, watched by forces most don't even believe exist. And now you're remembering why. The next part will pull the curtain back even further. We'll explore the final 3 signs so rare, so deeply hidden, that most people never recognize them until it's too late. But you're going to see them clearly because you're ready. There is a war happening right now, but it's not on your screens or in the headlines. It's happening in the unseen, in energy, in intention. It's a war of influence, of frequency, of soul. And yes, you are part of it, whether you ask to be or not. The dark chosen ones exist, not as fairy tale villains, but as incarnated beings aligned with distortion, deception, and energetic domination. They are not always obvious. In fact, they often wear the mask of light. They speak with charm, they teach false wisdom, They mimic spiritual truth like a mirror laced with poison. But when they encounter someone with rare shadow protection, something strange happens. Their influence doesn't work, and their energy bounces off. Their attempts to confuse, manipulate, or drain collapse. And that's why they fear you without knowing why. The fifth sign you carry rare shadow protection is that you've been targeted for destruction, but it never sticks. I don't mean random bad luck. I mean specific, almost orchestrated attempts to derail you. Toxic relationships that seem designed to break your confidence. Opportunities that turned to betrayals. People who entered your life like saviors, only to reveal themselves as traps. It's as if something was trying to take you out. And yet, every time you escaped, maybe barely, maybe bleeding, but still standing. That's not coincidence. That's the shield in action. Shadow guardians don't prevent the attack. They let you walk through it and come out wiser, stronger, and more immune. You were never meant to be fragile. You were meant to be forged. There's something deeper here. When the dark chosen ones sense your presence, some will try to befriend you. They'll flatter you, mirror your beliefs, offer mentorship or connection. But their energy always reveals itself eventually. And your body knows before your mind does. That's the sixth sign. Your intuition is unnaturally sharp around false light. You can feel when someone is pretending. You may not always know why, but something in you tenses. You feel drained after talking to them. You feel foggy, confused. Or worse, you feel like you're being pulled into a version of yourself that isn't really you. That's not just discomfort. That's your field rejecting what's not aligned. Shadow protection sharpens your energetic radar. It keeps you from being hypnotized. You may not always listen to it, but when you do, you realize you were seconds away from danger. And your guardians whispered, "Turn back." But here's something even more shocking. The seventh sign, the rarest of all, is that you've had moments where your own shadow rose to the surface violently. Maybe in a dream. Maybe during a spiritual experience. Maybe in a moment of rage or breakdown. And it scared you. You felt something ancient, primal, almost inhuman rise from within. And you thought, what is this? Is this evil? But what if it wasn't? What if that wasn't darkness trying to consume you, but your shadow guardian revealing itself? You see, the greatest protection doesn't just come from light. It comes from integrated shadow. The dark chosen ones operate through suppressed shadow in others. They feed on people's guilt, shame, denial. But when your shadow is integrated, seen, loved, expressed consciously, they lose all access points. You become unhackable. And sometimes your shadow guardian will test you by rising in full force. Not to destroy you, but to teach you, to show you your power. To say, this is what you are capable of. Don't fear it. Master it. I want to ask you something now, and I want you to sit with it deeply. Have you ever felt like you were being trained for something bigger, something that didn't make sense in this world? Have you ever wondered why your life has been a series of spiritual traps, awakenings, near misses, and impossible recoveries? What if you're not being tested? What if you're being trained? You see, the dark chosen ones don't just look for weak souls to consume. They look for powerful souls to convert. And when they can't convert you, they try to collapse you. But your shadow protection has made you untouchable. Not because you're above darkness, but because you've tasted it, survived it, and learned its language. You don't run from it. You recognize it. You've become fluent in navigating the underworld, and that makes you a threat. But here's the twist most don't expect. Your protection is not just for you. It's for others. Once you fully step into your awareness, your shield expands. It begins to cover those around you. You've probably already seen it. People feel safer in your presence. They confess things they've never told anyone. They heal just by talking to you. Sometimes they cry without knowing why. That's not just empathy. That's energetic shielding. You're holding a field, a frequency, a protection that reaches beyond your own body. This is why the dark chosen ones want to distract you, tempt you, or break you. Because if you rise fully into who you are, you become a sanctuary, a lighthouse in the storm, and they can't afford for too many of you to wake up at once. But it's too late. The awakening has already begun. And now, you're remembering not just who you are, but what you're here to do. You are not weak. You are not haunted. You are not broken. You are protected. And your very existence is part of a counterforce rising to meet the distortion of this age. The next part will be the final activation. We'll go beyond signs and into purpose. Because once you know you are protected, you must learn why. Your protection is not a gift. It's a responsibility. And in the final part, we'll reveal what happens when the shield becomes a sword, when you become not just the protected, but the protector. Now you know. You felt the signs, lived through the patterns, survived the tests. You are not just protected, you are being prepared. But protection is never the final destination. It is the womb before birth, the shelter before the storm, the cocoon before the wings. And now, it's time for your next evolution. You are not meant to remain hidden behind the shadow shield forever. You are meant to step forward not as a victim of darkness, not as someone merely escaping the grip of the dark chosen ones, but as a force, a protector, a guardian of others who are still asleep, still vulnerable, still wandering through the traps and illusions of this world. You are not just one of the protected. You are being called to become the protector. And to do that, you must transform your shield into a sword. The moment you accept this role, you begin to see your life differently. What used to feel like chaos now reveals itself as curriculum. Every betrayal, every heartbreak, every near-death spiral was a classroom. You weren't just surviving, you were being trained. Just like a warrior must learn the language of war, you had to learn the language of shadow, its tricks, its temptations, its masks. You had to know how darkness moves, not from books or teachings, but from direct experience. That is the only way to develop true immunity, not from fear, but from wisdom. And now that you've walked through the fire, your very presence becomes fireproof. You become the one others instinctively turn to when their world collapses. You become the one who can sit in the chaos without flinching, without looking away, without judging. Because you've been there, and you remember what it's like to feel alone, hunted, broken, and unseen. But now, you're none of those things. Now, you are the sanctuary. There's something you need to understand on the deepest level. The dark chosen ones don't fear your light. They fear your wholeness. Because when you integrate shadow and light, you become sovereign. You become untouchable. They cannot manipulate you through guilt or shame because you've faced all of it. You've made peace with your imperfections. You've brought your demons to the table and broke bread with them. That is what makes you powerful. Not purity, not positivity, but radical self-ownership. The chosen ones who rise are not those who deny their darkness, they are those who use it wisely, as fuel, as depth, as discernment. And now this is your task. To walk into spaces where others are drowning and carry the frequency of calm. To enter rooms filled with distortion and hold the line of truth. Not as a preacher, not as a savior, but as a quiet, grounded presence that reminds people of what's real. But this path is not glamorous. It's not about recognition. In fact, the more powerful you become, the less visible you may need to be. Real protectors don't seek the spotlight. They become the structure that holds others upright. They become the invisible spine behind movements, the silent strength behind revolutions of consciousness. And this is perhaps the final test of the shadow-guarded ones. You must let go of the need to be seen, praised, or validated. You must learn to operate from sacred anonymity. You must become a living frequency, not a brand, because the dark chosen ones are watching too, and they know how to bait egos with false light. But the protector walks above that game. The protector knows the only real currency is alignment. The only real power is integrity, and the only real armor is humility. Let me ask you something now, not as a guru, not as a voice on a screen, but soul to soul. What are you truly protecting? Is it just your own peace? Or is it something greater? A lineage? A generation? A forgotten truth that needs to be remembered through your life, your choices, your embodiment? You see, the moment you stop making your healing only about you, the mission begins. You step into archetype. You become a living myth. And the shadow guardians around you no longer just shield you, they move through you. They sharpen your words. They guide your timing. They place you in exactly the right moment to interrupt a cycle of harm someone else couldn't escape from. You start to notice it, that your presence alone changes the trajectory of people's lives, that your silence can sometimes be louder than 1,000 voices, that your intuition becomes not just accurate but surgical. You are no longer reactive, you are precise, strategic, aligned. You don't fight battles that aren't yours. You don't save people who haven't chosen to rise. You don't waste energy on proving yourself. You've outgrown the need to be understood. You are now a force, and forces do not explain themselves. They act, they serve, they protect. And here's the deepest truth of all. The dark chosen ones were not your enemy. They were your mirror. They showed you what happens when power is divorced from love, when intellect is severed from soul, when charisma is weaponized instead of sanctified. And now you hold the antidote, not just in ideas but in embodiment. You are the balance, the walking paradox, the one who holds both sword and compassion, who can destroy illusions without becoming cruel, who can protect without controlling, who can see everything and still choose love. That is what this world needs now, not more noise, not more teachers, but protectors, guardians, warriors of stillness who know how to walk through darkness and not get lost, who can feel every frequency and still stay centered, who can face any being, any energy, any spell and not flinch. You are that. You are becoming that. And maybe on some level you always were. You just had to go through the forgetting to remember. You just had to be broken to be rebuilt deeper. You just had to be humbled to be trusted with power. And now, I want you to sit with this one question, the final question of this journey. What are you willing to become now that you know you are protected? Because this is the edge. Beyond it, there is no going back to ordinary life. Once you accept your role, the old games no longer interest you. The old wounds no longer define you. The old fears no longer move you. You are no longer a seeker. You are no longer just a survivor. You are no longer even the chosen. You are the protector. You are the sword of the shadow. And the world has been waiting for you. Now you stand at the threshold of something few ever reach. You've heard the call. You've survived the fire. You've walked the path of shadow without becoming lost in it. Most would stop here, take their healing, their protection, and walk quietly into a life of peace. But for you, that's not enough. Because deep down you already know this was never just about you. You weren't trained to sit in comfort. You were forged to bear a crown no one sees, carry a sword no one applauds, and protect a truth no one else remembers. That is what it means to live as a guardian. You don't do it for recognition. You do it because if you don't, who will? This is the paradox of the shadow protected. You are both invisible and essential. You are the unseen thread that holds others together when they unravel. You are the space between the words that helps someone remember themselves. You are the silence in someone's storm, the calm in someone's chaos, the mirror that reflects not what they want to see, but what they need to see. And the world will rarely thank you for it. In fact, it may never understand you. But that's the hidden beauty of your path. You don't serve for applause. You serve because your soul made an agreement long before you were born. And now that agreement is activating. Living as a guardian means learning how to embody your power without broadcasting it. You walk into rooms not to impress, but to stabilize. You listen more than you speak. You influence not through force, but through frequency. People change after being near you, but they don't know why. They feel safer, clearer, more honest. That's your field doing the work. And no, they may never give you credit. But that's not the point. The point is, you feel it. That's your reward. the knowing that you are being who you came here to be, that you are aligning, moment by moment, with the ancient architecture of your soul. But here's where it gets deeper. As you live this way, you become a beacon for others like you. You start to attract other guardians in disguise. Not perfect people, not polished mystics, but those who've been through their own fires. Those who carry a quiet strength, a scarred grace, a hidden wisdom. You recognize them instantly, not with your eyes, but with your energy. You start building something sacred, not a tribe based on ego, but a circle based on resonance. A soul family bound not by blood, but by mission. Together you begin to create sanctuaries, physical or energetic, where truth can rise again, where others can awaken safely, where the illusion of the world begins to dissolve, simply because your presence makes it impossible to maintain. You must understand this. The dark chosen ones know this moment is coming. They've seen it in their mirrors, felt it in their rituals, feared it in their dreams. They know that when a certain number of guardians awaken, their control systems begin to crack. Because the guardians don't fight the dark, they dissolve its source. Not by preaching, not by attacking, but by embodying a reality where distortion cannot survive. You become the glitch in the matrix. You bend the rules just by existing. You are the living proof that healing is possible, that sovereignty is real, that love is stronger than fear when it is rooted in truth. But walking this path is not without cost. You will feel lonely, even when surrounded by people. You will feel heavy, even when smiling. You will question yourself, not because you're wrong, but because the world around you doesn't yet reflect what you know inside. You will want to quit not once, but many times. And when that happens, I want you to remember this truth. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be remembered. You are here to be felt. You are here to be the current that awakens others, even if they never know your name. And that's where we arrive at the final mystery. The true reward of the shadow protected isn't power. It isn't safety. It's the quiet joy of knowing you are living in alignment with your origin. That every breath, every step, every choice is a prayer. That your life itself becomes a living transmission. You don't need to teach. You don't need to convince. You just need to be. Fully. Fiercely. Fearlessly. Because when you are fully yourself, you become a living firewall against spiritual distortion. Your honesty becomes a weapon. Your peace becomes protection. And your presence becomes prophecy. So, how do you live this way practically? You start by honoring your own energy above all. You stop wasting time explaining yourself to people who have no capacity to see you. You stop entering rooms that drain you, conversations that shrink you, systems that try to mold you. You start creating your own rhythm, your own rituals, your own reality. You protect your peace as if it's sacred because it is. You speak only when your words carry weight. You move only when your soul says move. You forgive not because others deserve it, but because you refuse to carry what isn't yours. You trust the timing of life, even when it doesn't make sense. You trust yourself, even when no one else does. You trust the protection you carry, even when the path is dark. And when it gets hard you remember, you are not alone. There are others like you, rising in silence, building the new world beneath the noise of the old one. You may never meet them in person, but you will feel them, you will know them. And together, you form the unseen army of the real, not soldiers, not saviors, but anchors, big guardians, beings who carry the template of what's possible when shadow and light are no longer at war, but in sacred union. So now I leave you with this final invocation, not as a farewell, but as a beginning. You are the protected. You are the protector. You are the sword of the shadow and the fire that cannot be extinguished. Walk forward now, not as who the world told you to be, but as who you were always meant to become. The crown is unseen. The mission is sacred, and the time is now.